Hi, my name's Dave Adams.
And I'm Ricky Sherwood.
And you're watching The Core Mechanic.
Today we're looking at number 61 on Mike Selinker's list, Dominion. Dominion was designed by Donald X. Vaccarino and published in 2008 by Rio Grande Games. It plays between 2 and 4 players with an average playtime of about 30 minutes. Dominion and its expansions have sold millions of copies and is the most played Spiel des Jahres game on BoardGameGeek.com. Now, despite its similarities to drafting in Magic the Gathering, Vaccarino insists that Magic was not the inspiration for Dominion.
Now, Vaccarino had not really been big into the board gaming hobby, admitting only playing 1 or 2 Euro games before he discovered the game Magic the Gathering, at which point his interest in the hobby was thoroughly sparked.
But not inspired by Magic the Gathering.
He would regularly work on his own board game designs, and then every year he would travel to Wizards of the Coast where he would present his ideas to Richard Garfield, the designer and creator of Magic the Gathering.
But not inspired by Magic.
He even worked informally with the Magic the Gathering R&D team and earned himself a credit in the comprehensive Magic rulebook.
But not inspired by Magic.
Now, the reason he sees his idea as separate from the Magic the Gathering game is because, in part, it was derived from another game that he was trying to create called Spirit Warriors. In 2003, he designed this card game, which was meant to be a deck building game, but had over 500 cards and went for about 4 hours. Realizing the incredible task of trying to play test and publish such a game, he gave up on the idea and never went through with publishing it formally. One weekend before his regular Monday night gaming group, he wanted to have some sort of pure deck building game and decided to work on an idea that had been formulating over a number of weeks. He wanted a deck builder that contained everything: resources, actions, abilities, and victory points. Realizing the difficulty of including all those things, he scaled back the resources to just being simple money and decided that instead of drawing 1 card at a time, each player would draw 5 cards. He made each deck 10 cards so that you could cycle through the deck rather quickly. And instead of drafting from the 500 card pool that he had for his previous games, he decided to simplify that and limit it down to a much smaller pool of cards. This, of course, formed the basis for the game that now exists today as Dominion. I think it's a little bit crazy that he tries to claim no relationship to Magic the Gathering. And that's entirely because I think, yes, part of his game was inspired by his Spirit Warriors. Spirit Warriors?
Spirit Warriors, yes. And Spirit Warriors 2, which he was working on.
Yeah, but I mean, look at his involvement. I think it's a different attitude towards how people perceive creativity occurring.
Yep.
I think a lot of people think that creativity does occur just out of nowhere. Whereas I would firmly argue against that. I think creativity and innovation occurs from the combining of elements and things that influence us and impact on our lives.
Yeah, your experiences, every game that you've ever played, there have been things that you like. And I think particularly, considering the time frame that Dominion was in, you had your choice of tabletop games.
Yep.
Or CCGs. There wasn't really a good middle ground as such.
Well, that's right. And he even created his own unofficial Magic the Gathering expansion.
That's right.
So the guy was very clearly working on Magic as he even cites Magic the Gathering as opening up that whole dynamic of card interaction.
And that's probably the biggest thing in Dominion, is that entire thing of cards interacting with each other, creating engines, creating combos, all working together towards that beautiful final goal.
Absolutely. And for me, that's what's the most fun about it, is trying to problem solve and come up with that engine. For me, and this is a lesson I had to learn early on in the game, was I tend to like draw engines. I love my draw engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! I love it in Magic the Gathering. I love it in, pretty much any game I play.
Seriously, Eminent Domain. First card you pick, draw 2 cards. Draw three.
Well, that's right. I love my draw engines. Yeah. And for me, I think that's that sense of safety with more cards means more options.
Yeah.
What I learned with Dominion was the first game to really punish me for that, because actually more cards just meant more options
More
of cards
options.
to draw more cards.
Yeah,
And I didn't actually get anywhere in my first couple of games.
that's right. So despite the fact that each card did have a unique effect which bent the rules of the game a little bit, you were still sort of leashed by the fact that you could only play one card.
Well, that's right. And that's what I think is a very clever design. It's not only just the card interaction going on in this game, it's the fact that every card breaks the rules. So there's a base rule. You draw your cards, you play one action, you buy one item in that order. But every card seems to subvert that somehow.
Take an extra action,
Yeah,
get extra gold.
that's right. Get extra gold, make an extra purchase, all those sorts of things going on. I mean, there are take that cards,
Yeah.
and that adds to the versatility of the game. In that you can have a purely take that element game, like you can have the thief and the or I'm trying to get all their names right, the rogue and all those sorts of things, and the witch, and you can be cursing people, hexing people, you can be stealing from people,
Which I enjoy a lot.
Discarding their cards. The fact is, you could take all of that out, and have a purely pure game of just essentially parallel play.
Mm.
In terms of the actual game design, I think the idea of what he's done really well is building into those elements the interaction between cards, as well as the interaction of the rules being so easy to learn, and then every card adding to it. Like you're almost learning rules as you go, based on what you have there.
Now, I do believe that other deck builders have since progressed on the idea. Stuff like Ascension and the Legendary system have done better in terms of the card comboing, multiple interaction front. But Dominion, there was nothing before it. And this was the first game that actually showed that you could be building a deck during a game and playing with it at the same time.
Well, that's right. I mean, in many respects, like you've got the Magic drafting system, which occurred, and that's primarily the basis of Dominion, is that Magic draft where everyone gets a pack of cards, you open it. I mean, it can be done differently. Sometimes it's you pick one, you pass the deck on, which means usually you get the chance to pick the cherries out of that deck of cards before you move it on. Sometimes there's two good cards and you have to choose between them. And there's also the other drafts where you've got you just get like 8 packets and you have to make a deck out of that. However, there's drawbacks to that. It's randomized.
You might just not get what you need.
That's right. Like clearly, I can get 8 packets out of a box and get nothing special, and you can get the same 8. You can get 8 packs out of the same box and get all of the mythic rares, the limiteds,
the legendary
cards, and which is just unbalanced during the actual gameplay itself. But now, one of the things you can say about the game, which I don't really know if it's a negative or a positive, to be honest, but some people have sort of noted or expressed dislike of the fact that the game it's all known information from the get-go. So you look at the setup. There are 10 different types of cards out there, which means that people can pretty much, if you're an expert player, select your strategy from the get-go. You know exactly which cards you're going to draft first, which cards you'll need to get your engine running, and then from there it just comes down to the luck of the draw. So with some expert players, there's that sort of holdback of, it doesn't add a lot of variety after a certain point. But having said that, I'm not sure that that's an entirely fair criticism, because within the base game alone, with all the different possible setups, now it's taken mathematicians to work this out, but they claim there's 2 quadrillion different possible games that could take place.
That's a statistic I'll argue against, because they might be different, but you're still only working with 10 different cards that all do the same thing, basically.
Well, I think you need to play the game 2 quadrillion times to prove them wrong.
But as you've noted already, expert players have already come up with strategies. They're already formulating those straight from the get-go.
Well, yeah, that's true. I just don't know. I feel like almost then that's part of your strategy. You want to be the first to do that. You've still got that unknown element of how your card draw is going to go. I still think that adds variety, or at least difference. And then, of course, you've got the fact that there's copious expansions.
Yeah.
I can't even list all the
And the
How many are
brilliant
there?
thing,
There's any number of them. It's amazing.
and the brilliant thing about each expansion is it's been adding on to the base game's rule-breaking element. You've started getting cards with powerful treasures, which have started to open up new strategies, things like that.
Oh, one of my favorites that I like is it the ducky? That's how you say it. I always say it wrong, but it's the ducky, the 5 victory points.
Yeah.
Duchy?
Yep.
Maybe it's duchy.
Maybe it's the duchy.
Yeah, I think I'm saying that wrong. It's
Duke
definitely
and Duchess of the Duchy?
Yeah,
maybe that.
That actually makes sense. That fits within the language of the medieval world. Yeah, okay, let's call it that.
Yeah.
Let's maybe even edit that out, perhaps.
No, let's keep that in.
All right, but the duchy that has the coins at the bottom of it as well.
Yeah.
Because I tend to favour a coin-heavy strategy now, having
that's how
gotten
you
over
win
my-
the game.
That's right. Having gotten over my draw engine
Mania.
require. That's right. But like I just go for big gold purchases as much as I can. Having a duchy that gets me 5 victory points as well as 3 coins is brilliant.
Yep. I haven't played all the expansions, but I'm hoping that at least one of them starts to add in things like alternate win conditions, because that's generally one of the biggest things about a CCG is multiple ways to win, developing different strategies. I mean, if all strategies go towards have the most gold, well,
I mean, all strategies go towards have the most victory points. But you're right. Like I think that how you generate that gold will be different. Whether you need the gold to claim every card, I think that's where you're going with it. Like trying to have strategies that, like most strategies will go about trying to build an engine to get gold to buy the victory points.
You need, yeah.
You're trying to look for an engine around that to just getting towards the victory points.
Yeah. But now
I haven't played all the expansions either. Maybe that it does exist.
Yeah. But now we're talking wish lists. As we said at the beginning, this was the first of its kind. There was never anything like this, and
Clearly,
it's developed a bit.
Absolutely.
Since, and even with the inclusion of expansions. The game is not the same as it was when it came out in 2008.
Yeah, it was 2008, that's right.
Yeah.
I've done so many of these, I keep forgetting the different years. 2008,
Yeah.
That sounds right. In terms of game design aspects of Dominion, I really enjoyed the interaction that he's created through the different card elements. Like how the cards interact really works well for me. I love that element of the game. And I think it really ticks into my desire to deck construct. Like I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player, and more recently Magic.
Any CCG player knows that feeling. I mean, that's the entire point of deck construction, is you've got a massive selection of tools and you are picking the right ones to do what you want to do. Thinking about other games of the time, a card would usually just do a single thing. Thinking off the top of my head, Settlers of Catan, you've got the one card which lets you take everyone's resources, but then it's done.
Well, that's right.
You're not really...
And that's not even common, those cards. They're more... The more common cards are things like sheep, grain, wood.
There is a strategy, of course, around building the knights or the longest road or whatever it is, but there's no strategy as such around monopolizing a resource, I believe.
Yeah.
Aside from...
But I think clearly that's why it's on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, when Mike put together this list of things that inspired him, or at least were 100 games you absolutely know how to play, this started the whole genre of deck building.
Yep.
And I think it did it in a way that was really accessible for people. I've never really struggled teaching the game to anyone.
No, it takes a few turns to get used to it, because I remember the first time I played, I didn't get it. I was buying these cards, I was putting them into my discard, and I knew it was going to make a deck again, but it never really occurred to me. There was a light bulb moment where, oh, wait, if I do this, then this, then this, I'd get more cards, more points, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it took a while to get into that for me.
That's right, it took me a couple of games to really nail that down too, but at the same time, I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. I was intrigued by it, genuinely intrigued by wanting to play it more. I think I played it most of the night the first time I played the game, and it was great.
Which we should talk about, the fact that the card text is incredibly simple. It's move, it's gold, it's victory points, it's You
Once-
didn't have to complicate the rules. You didn't have to add extended explanations for new mechanics and stuff. And that's probably the only way a game like this can actually work.
Well, yeah, and you've got the fact that once you know those base rules of draw your 5, play your action, make a purchase, all the cards use that language, and it's easy to see what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I can play an action. This action gives me one more action. Great. So I'll play 2 more cards, and these cards give me 2 purchases. I'll use whatever coins I have. It's not complicated. It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's very streamlined, and still today I think stands up.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it's been surpassed by any other game in its genre.
Yeah,
followed it.
other deck builders do have a tendency sometimes to have a few too many extra jargon on them.
Well, I wonder if that's in part. I mean, you've got to at least acknowledge Vaccarino's neophyte nature to the gaming hobby. I tend to wonder if gamers then pick up things like this and try to make the game more for their audience.
Yeah.
So
Certainly,
you get the more convoluted rules. You get the different phases of actions and plays and the different elements of the board and setup and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, one of the great developments out of the game is games like Legendary Encounters and Alien Deck Builder, or even Marvel Legendary. They're really great additions onto the game, but at the same time, they're a different gaming experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put them into the same basket. Dominion still stands as I can happily anytime sit down and play a game of Dominion, not feel I'm missing out on anything.
Yeah. It also follows sort of traditional tabletop sort of thought processes. You've got an end goal. Most victory points wins.
Yeah.
That's why the game can play 4 players competitive.
And it gives you good information all the time too. So heuristically, you know exactly how well you're doing.
Yeah.
You have a sense of how the others are doing based on who's buying cards. Every time someone buys, 8 victory points, you're like, oh my goodness, I know I'm behind. I better get onto that. I need to get those purchases done. And you generally have a sense of who's in the lead by the end, as well as you're very aware of how close to the end of the game you are.
Sure.
Because each purchase diminishes those decks, and you can see how many cards are left, which is providing great information to the players. And every time players are well aware exactly how far into the game they are, how far they've got to go, how well they're doing in that, and what they need to do to improve.
Yeah.
I think it provides really good information as a game to the players.
Would you say it's a game that's easy to learn, hard to master?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think so, because I've never mastered it. I still lose a lot.
Mhm.
And, but I don't play it as much as some people. I think I've seen one guy on BGG logged over 5,000 games of...
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it must be the only thing he plays.
But it is a good game.
It is a good game. Well worth it. Certainly, I think in terms of game design, what would you try and capture and take into your own design?
This idea of a collected resource can be reused and can be built upon. In so many games, you might draw a card of a specific color, and then you'd have to discard it in order to do whatever, and you'd never see that card again. Games such as Uno, your skip turns, your whatever. But what Dominion does is every card that you invest in will come back again and can therefore be built upon. Now, this idea intrigues me because nowadays, I'm not just looking at you get a gold piece, you throw it away to do something. I'm looking for you get a gold piece, you place it on something, and then the more gold pieces you have on something, the more points you might get towards the end of the game. Because that's a better use of resources.
Right. Yeah, I really like... I mean, that's a good point. I didn't actually even see it from that angle. For me, it was just the idea that those cards, that everything I purchase helps me break the rules. I like that idea of breaking the rules. That cards give me the power. Like I'm restricted by this set of rules, and they're really simple, and they're really easy, and they're really basic. And then the cards help me overcome that somehow, or they find a way around it, or they give me the power to do more than what the rules will let me do.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing I think is really fascinating, because I go, okay, well, and I see it a lot in games now. I mean, really, it's the same for Magic. It's the same for a lot of these things.
Yeah, it's what determines the power of a certain card. isn't it?
Well,
Or
that's
any
right.
certain resource. Once again, the Catan example. You've got that one card that lets you build 2 roads immediately.
Yeah.
And that's considered a fairly powerful card. This idea of bending rules, it's been around, I feel, but this game really focuses on it. Because
Yeah.
everything is built around that, getting around your limitations.
And also the fact that every deck contains everything. That idea of you have everything in your deck. You have all your victory points. You have all your resources. You have all your abilities. It's all in your deck. And that's really clean and simple in terms of setup and gameplay. Like you get there, and you don't have to sit down and try and sort out this part of the board and play cards over here and manage these resources here.
Yeah.
I mean, compare it to a game like Agricola, and it's insane. Like, you've got resources everywhere, and you've got all these multiple. No, it's all contained in your deck. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something that, I don't know, I'd like to try and play with that idea of, not needing anything more than what I've got in one little stack.
Elegance and simplicity is, as in terms of design, one that'll help you on your production costs.
Yeah, for sure.
For the most cynical of us. But 2, it also makes it a lot easier for players to get a grasp. They don't have to worry about what's going on at X side, Y side, Z side. Their deck is their focus. That's all they've really got to worry about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, for me, the idea that your victory points and victory conditions are contained in the deck. They are your win condition, but they are also your biggest hindrance to the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to get to your win condition, you actually have to, I suppose,
Stifle
penalize
yourself.
yourself. Because every time you draw your win condition, you actually can't do anything with it.
You're making your deck more clumsy.
So there's that balance there, which I just find interesting, was that, yes, I need. So it's usually probably also why you see such a rush at the end.
Yeah.
Everyone gets their engine up and going, and then suddenly it's like, oh, all the victory
Because they
points
don't
just
want
start
to
disappearing.
tarnish their
That's
perfect
right.
engines.
There's almost like this balance point, this tipping point, where eventually someone starts to make a break for it, make a lead on the victory points, and everyone then goes, let's all buy them up. And that's when you see the end of the game just sort of see the build up, ramp up, and then boom, straight down. And I love it. I love that. And it's just amazing to me, that whole interaction of what he's done there with those cards and how he's made them interact. Brilliant game. Look, I think that
it's a classic for a reason, and you should definitely have it in your collection.
Well, yeah, or at least have several friends with lots of expansions and the base set themselves,
definitely.
like I do. I just use theirs. It's way cheaper for me.
Yep.
Look, thanks for watching. My name's Dave Adams.
I'm Ricky Sherwood.
And you've been watching
The Core Mechanic.